Our next guests have not only been making great music from their home studios in Vermont, give it up for Vermont, they've been making headlines around the world as a band rapidly on the rise. Here in the studio to join us, one of the buzziest bands at this year's South by, Thus Love, members Echo Mars, Lou Racine, and Nathaniel Van Osdale. Welcome, Thus Love.
Hey, thanks, Buster.
Thank you.
The buzziest band, they say. Wow. Now I want to read what we did our research. This is what one reviewer described you all as. Quote, their antics are pure and delightful id without the Freudian undertones. End quote. Yeah. When you were starting the band, you're like, we hope that our antics are pure and delightful id,
and not
without
Freudian.
the Freudian interlude. When you listen to that, you're like, yeah, they got us. They got us. What's your response to that?
Well, this is the same answer when people ask us what's our biggest influence. We say Freud. We listen to a lot of Freud.
The overtones, not the undertones, though.
Yeah.
But the origin story. I love a good origin story, and we got to give a shout out to Brat. Talk to us about the Brat and Vermont, and how without the Brat there'd be no Thus Love. Echo.
Yeah, I moved there in 2018, and I had given up all hope at finding a band. And then I moved there to go to school, and I met Louie here. Mm-hmm. And the day classes started, I dropped out because I had found somebody to play music with.
Coincidentally, I had just started a band 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
When Echo moved to town, and we met. It was fate. It's like the Brattleboro magic,
Yeah, so
small town.
You all talk about the Brattleboro magic, but what is it the magic of that town, that specific town in Vermont that is a creative well for folks who are trying to find their voice and their identity, to find friends, and they come there and they're like, oh, we'll be friends.
Yeah.
We'll start a band.
Yeah. Well, up until recently, it's definitely been a major sanctuary, financially for people who are creative. You can have a relatively cheap place to live and focus on what you're doing and kind of not have this rat race going on about you that can distract you. There's nothing else going on there except for people doing honest things with their hearts, So I think that, and just having a community that's so supportive. If you're living in a city, there's just too many people. There's too many people doing similar stuff. There's too many. It feels competitive to be around so many other people. But in a small town, you kind of have this. You're in an individual oasis. Not that we're individualist as bands. There's a lot of people who influence our music and who are current and active and contemporary. But you start to develop your own flavor when you're in a really beautiful alcove of the world.
And what's really beautiful, it's a community, right?
Yeah.
And shout out to Wendy. We saw the interview, we did our research, and there's this great interview on Brat's, I think, local television.
Yeah.
Where Wendy, she's like this grandma, right? Like this 70-year-old grandma, and she's rooting for you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's happening? This is this really sweet.
Hey,
Wendy. This is really sweet, grandma who's like, you're from our town.
Yeah.
And you're blowing up.
Yeah.
That's something that you probably might not get, Nathaniel, from if you were in the New York scene or the LA scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's something magic about being from a small town, just in as much so that we know almost everybody who lives in Brattleboro. Mm-hmm. We have some connection with every single person in that town. And that's a magic that's lost in bigger places for sure. And
there was a story about you were hesitant to join.
Yeah.
Lou and Echo, right? And you're like, hey, well, what convinced you? It's all right, I'm going to go in.
It was a series of events that built up to it. I
trapped you in my apartment.
Other than that.
So I was still in school the first time Echo asked me to join. I was finishing up my senior year of college. I was so busy. I was staying up until the wee hours of the morning.
As one does.
Yep, writing my thesis. I had a lot of stuff going on. Echo came to a party that I threw. We were both
great parties.
Excellent. We were both very, very drunk. We ended up in a basement together, and Echo was like, "You play music. I need someone who plays music. Join my band. Let's do it. Here's my number."
And you were like, no.
I was like,
Yes,
yeah,
no.
You got to work on your pitch there. You gotta work on your
I
pitch.
know. They're like, I'll call you.
And then, that was in September. We didn't really connect at all until the following December, where I was looking for a place to stay during my winter break, and I ended up staying with Echo.
And you all live together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was sort of the precursor to that, because I was couch surfing, so I was staying on Echo's couch.
Yeah, we ended up living in the apartment below that one.
Yeah. I was crashing in a studio like above Echo's apartment.
It's a triple-decker
It
situation.
was really a triple-decker situation. It was great.
We had the best New Year's party there, 2020. Like right before everything.
Well, right before, and I think you all talk about that being in that same town,
Yeah.
in a community where everyone knows everyone's name, living pretty much together
Yeah.
during a pandemic. Because people are, we're still
With no bathroom door.
with no
no bathroom door.
I like that. I like that. With no bathroom.
Yeah,
door.
just
Yeah.
yeah.
So for those who are complaining about toilet rolls, that's the story you tell the kids.
well,
we were growing up.
You should ask about Nathaniel's experience in the bathroom. just
Oh
now. It's-
my
Well, now you got to
Lord.
tell us.
Yeah.
I was in the stall before
your
coming up,
business.
maybe 20, 30 minutes ago, and there was just a hole in the stall where the toilet paper roll was, and I was sharing a toilet paper roll with the person in the stall next to me. And I was feeling very hesitant to reach for the toilet paper, lest we accidentally touched hands.
If you don't mind, what was the etiquette? How did you barter peace and share the toilet paper?
So I sat there with my knees clattering for about 10 minutes until the other person finished and got up, and then I greedily grabbed as much toilet paper as I could before the next person came in.
And you're here, and then you rushed up to join us. So thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Great work.
Thank you for being
I worked up a sweat.
a person for others. But there is something to be said, right, about that moment of just being together as the world shut down.
Yeah.
You all have talked about it, that was formative for Thus
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah,
How was that? How was
seriously.
that so important for you to just come together and create this music?
Because we had nothing else to do, and not just like, that's not even from a sense of boredom, but like a sense of like, I'm sure many people felt like many days during like the first lockdown, like if I don't do something, I will literally lose myself, like emotionally, mentally, whatever. And because being a band was all that we were doing prior, we were dealing with the heartbreak and the loss of obviously so many things and so many people, but also our band. We were grieving our livelihood and our ambition and our main focus. And so we didn't even decide to make an album because the time was right. We decided to make an album for closure's sake, so that there would be something to milestone what we had been working on the past several years together. And since we were doing that, and since like we needed to hyper focus, we spent a really long time on it, and we had, or at least like most days, we had all the time that we needed to do it. So just day in, day out.
And
yeah.
the fruits of that are now described by New Music Express and me as, wait for it, shit hot. So you're not just hot. I'm quoting, we do our research.
Yeah.
They said Thus Love is the shit hot band
Wow.
that is blowing up.
Topical.
Very topical, yes.
So I mean, it's one thing, right? When you're on the opposite side of fame, I'm sure you oftentimes wake up and say, "I'm the shit hot band member."
Yes, I think
of
it every
Thus
day.
Love." No, but when you hear that, and now you're blowing up from Brat, still young, just a year and a half ago, just trying to figure out what you want to do, and now you're at South by performing, I think, 8 times, where everyone's like, yo, Thus Love. You have to go listen to Thus Love. How does that make you feel, and that burden and responsibility and joy and excitement of fame that comes with it?
I feel like I'm in a Sims game.
Deep cut, thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
How about you, Lou?
It's a weird dream.
Yeah.
Nathaniel?
I definitely appreciate how it seems like we're resonating with so many people. It feels really, really good to be seen in that regard. It's definitely a shock still. I don't think it's gotten any easier the past, like year or so. of just like, wow, we're building up speed, we're going for it, but it feels really good.
Speaking about being seen and being heard, there are many who are your fans who not just identify with your music, but what you represent, especially in this day and age when it comes to gender and identity. And there's a quote, Echo, you said, the reason why people digest art and why they want to hear the next single of a band they like is to have access to shared vulnerability that makes them feel seen or represented or heard.
Damn, I said that?
You said that. I was like, well done. But it's easier said than done. Sharing vulnerability for a person is difficult. Sharing it on stage is difficult. Sharing it for a global audience is not easy.
No.
And you all decide to do that. But there's a reciprocity where now these fans come and they're like, I see myself in you.
Yeah.
So it's not just the music, but I feel like you all have decided, no, we're going to go in on this. We're going to flex on this.
Yeah.
And you also put a target on yourselves.
Yeah, right.
And how do you deal with that?
Smoke weed. I'm just kidding. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Just gratitude. Like, seriously, I'm like, we don't, I mean, knock on wood that things pick up even more and, we get to have a tour bus with a jacuzzi in the back or something, but.
You hear that?
Like,
you want a jacuzzi.
I'm houseless at home. Like, I live better on tour. Like, that's the case for most of us. Like, already the point that we're at is surpassing any pre-existing goals that we once had.
Yeah.
So it's not only how we meet people coming up to us in that capacity, but also like we have to set new goals for ourselves. That's unfathomable for a DIY band from the woods. That's insane. So I think definitely like one of those goals is like figuring out gracious and gratuitous ways to interact with people who are actively trying to interact with us and like how to do that. And sometimes I treat it like, we were talking about this, we were just on tour in the UK for 5 weeks, and there's this point when we were at the merch table and it started to feel like customer service. Like not because we didn't appreciate people coming up, not because it was disingenuous, but because we started having the same responses. Like people were saying the same things and we had the same responses, and it started to become way impersonal than it did like the first week of the tour.
And now it's South by.
Right, and so we started conceptualizing like, okay, like let's ask them what they thought about the record specifically. Like not like, thank you for liking it, thank you for saying
be more
this,
of like a
but,
dialogue.
Yeah, like, okay, what did you think? Like what, what do you see in it? How does it make you feel? Like this and that.
It's going to be an evolving process.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an evolving challenge. And as you're playing 8 shows at South by Southwest, you came in as one thing, and I think you're all going to leave as something else, something bigger. And,
Hear that?
And now it's going to have, like, as Annie Me said, I didn't say it, the hot shit will become hotter shit, inshallah, as we say, with the baggage and the responsibility that you're all taking on. And I'm just really curious, when you were saying, Echo, just now, you're like, oh, this is already much bigger than I thought. Like Annie and Lou, like, what did you think? You were sitting there in Brat, and you're like, we're going to get together, we'll release an album, some people will listen, and, we'll pay our bills. It'll be great. It'll be awesome.
I just feel like I don't even have a response to that. This feels so crazy.
It brings up a specific memory
I
that
can't make eye contact with anyone.
Like we were doing that, and we booked a show at the, like near that time with like a fairly well-known regional band like in Western Mass, who Lou was a fan of for a long time, and Lou was like, what was my goal? Like, was to play with them. It was like hang out with them and play with them, and now that we did that.
And if you did that, you're like,
Yeah.
I did it. I reached the apex. I'm happy.
Yeah,
Like-
like I feel like our goals were pretty attainable.
Our biggest goal was to like headline our one local venue in town, which is like a 260 cap room.
Which is a lot.
And, like,
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. And like, yeah.
Shout out Stone Church.
Shout out to the Stone Church. Shout out Robin and Aaron and Jason and everyone.
And so, Nathan, when you got the invite to do South by, I mean, it's like, if your goal was Brat, 260 capacity church, did it. Let's go. What? But then you get the South by invite. How'd you all respond to that?
I feel like we all just sat back and we were like, "Ah, finally, let's do it."
We'll see.
It was definitely a moment of excitement for all of us. You know, I don't think any of us have. You've been to Texas. You've driven through before, right?
Yeah, but just the
Yeah.
the block in the top.
But for Lou and I, you know, we haven't seen too much of the country, so we're just slowly chipping away, and we're like, all right, this is the farthest west we've ever been. It's time to see Austin.
Yeah.
It's time to get some Texas barbecue.
Which is wild, right?
Yeah.
Because as the band's blown up, and as you know, as sound and music becomes global, you have fans all over the world. There's a tour coming up.
Yeah.
And so you're telling me, you're like, oh, we're in Brad, people like us. Oh, Texas, Austin barbecue. And, yay! But now you're about to go across the Atlantic, and I'm assuming for some of you it's the first time.
We just got back.
Second
Oh, you just got
time.
back. You just got back. So
we just got back. Just happened.
and so when that happened, and you're seeing now a global, diverse audience digesting this and hitting you back with applause, and you are officially, I would say, rock stars or or rock star adjacent.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And you,
Rock
Lou,
star
I could see with you, you're still feeling uncomfortable with it.
I think just something that I've been thinking about a lot is like the first show that we played in the UK. Like before we even played, like just stepping on stage, like there were like 5 people in the front row that came up and like had us sign their tickets to the show because they wanted to feel like a piece of history, like our first show in the UK, and like just like kneeling down on the stage, like signing these tickets. And I was like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But it is happening.
And those
Yeah.
people came to 3 other gigs later.
And you know, we had the Zombies here, a Hall of Fame rock and roll star, Zombies. We're talking to them, and when they were starting off, just like you, this young, I told you, they were the first band to hit #1 after the Beatles, at a time where it was unheard of for a British band to hit #1 in America.
Yeah.
So I asked them, like, you know, how did it feel like? And they're like, at that time, they're like, we're just these blokes from England.
Yeah.
And when we came to America, we're like, oh, will they accept us? Because all of our music was informed by them.
Yeah.
And they're looking at us as the next thing, and we're like, no, we just want validation from you. Who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah.
And then like, we never thought, and then just like them, they're like, now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they're like, the fact that we even got invited and they embraced us was huge, right? And so I see, seeing them in this stage of their life, now seeing you all about to blow up, it's just interesting to see a band on its journey.
Yeah.
And it's like, I knew them when Thus Love rolled by. There was a mishap with the toilet paper.
I knew Thus Love when they were taking craps at the Marriott.
It's
And
very
when,
human, very
when they were
relatable.
sharing toilet paper.
Yes.
Now they come up with their own Japanese Toto. It's one of those situations where we'll see where the music goes. But to know that there's other artists even who are like Thus Love. Has there been another artist that you have looked up to, right? That you're like, oh man, they influenced us, that has now come to you and said, oh, I love your music.
Oh.
We got a message from Barty Strange, didn't we?
Yeah, Barty
Yes.
That was
Strange.
a huge one for us.
Oliver
When
Ackerman.
our
Mystery
first
Strangers.
single came out,
Yeah.
Barty Strange sent us a message, which was really good.
Bartiz is crushing it.
Oliver Ackerman from.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Death by Audio and
Oliver
Mystery
Ackerman.
Strangers.
Love you so much.
Big
And
fan.
what's let's dream big, why not?
Yeah.
If you could jam with one band or one artist.
Oh, Rodrigo Amarante. Or Aldous Harding. Aldous Harding, too. I love you.
How about you, Lou?
Oh, pass.
That's fine. Take a pass. By the way, I just want to say that's the first pass we've had at South by.
I'm so bad with interviews because
No,
it's
you're
like
great.
I can't answer really quickly. Like I need to sit with the question for like a while to like
Sit with
give a
it. This is
genuine
South by.
answer.
Take time.
So maybe
Nathaniel.
you answer and then I'll be inspired to answer.
I would love to be part of Cher's backing band if she ever goes on tour again.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Do
that would
you
feel
believe in love?
Yeah, yeah,
love,
absolutely.
after love.
I do. I still do after all of these years.
Oh my God, I literally have no idea. Can you answer for me? Because you know me better.
Yeah. The bass player of Interpol.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
We have 30 seconds left.
Yep.
You all are really charming.
So are you. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those who see you and hear you and who still want to be seen and don't have the courage to be vulnerable and share their voice, message for them.
Listen to Korn.
I love you.
We are with you always.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
Seriously.
Thus Love, playing 8 shows at South by Southwest. From the Brat to Austin, Texas, gonna have barbecue, playing Wednesday at midnight at the Creek and Cave Backyard, Thursday at 11 p.m. at the Hotel Vegas, 1 a.m. Friday night at the 13th floor, 8:15 p.m. Saturday at the Creek and Cave, and you can see our complete schedule of upcoming studio interviews on our website at sxsw.com/studio. And these interviews are live streaming during the event on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/sxsw. I'm your host, Wajahat Ali, and thanks for watching.